So let's get into things. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk some NBA. All right. The draft starts in less than an hour. It
Yeah.
is too bad. If I get updates, I will. We will hop on those like if the first pick gets traded. But for now, let's just talk about thoughts. Obviously, there's been some big moves. The first thing that comes to my mind to start things off is Chris Paul going to the Suns. Um, and here's my big thing. Okay, here's my thing. Does Chris Paul make the Suns a playoff team? All right, Ian, what are your thoughts?
I think absolutely not. I think the Suns they have. I think that the Suns have much more work to do, honestly. So didn't they trade Ricky Rubio
Yeah, they
for Chris
Ricky
Paul?
Rubio and Kelly Oubre.
Yeah, Ricky Rubio, Kelly Oubre. I think that they are still pretty far away from being a playoff team. I would say. I mean, I am like a really big critic of the Suns. I mean, they have Devin Booker. He's one of the best players in the NBA, but they repeatedly like disappoint just year after year.
Very true.
Um, I don't think that adding Chris Paul would really have like a huge enough impact to propel them into the playoffs.
And I can see your point. I think one thing, obviously, Chris Paul is probably an upgrade over Ricky Rubio at point guard, but
Yeah,
you do have to talk about the fact that you lose a young, growing player in Kelly Oubre, who had shown a lot of explosiveness. I mean, my goodness, the amount of posters that he did in a span of a year last year. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, it was like this man has hops. He's got the explosiveness to finish at the rim. He had a lot of promise, and you do give that up for someone who's hopped around in the last couple of years. Obviously, Chris
yeah.
Paul's been moving around a lot recently and has been productive, but not nothing insane.
I don't say that he's been like a game changer like level
No,
productive. He's not like it's not like a big trade. Like if, for example, like a trade rumor like Russell Westbrook for John Wall, which would be a huge trade
right,
if that happened. It's nothing like that. It's. I mean, you got a veteran player who I guess he could serve like to mentor other players. I guess like Devin Booker or something.
right.
I could see how that's a addition for the team, but other than that, I don't really see anything that big.
Yeah,
I
adding to that conversation, in the past 3 years, Devin Booker has put up all of his numbers, all of his statistics, his points per game, his field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks have been below his career average, except for his blocks. They've gone up a tiny bit, but you're not really looking for that for a point guard.
very true.
And his assists per game are down almost 3 full assists per game compared to his career average, which, considering he's not putting up crazy numbers offensively either, shooting. I mean, he's shooting. He shot well last year with 48% from the field, but not so great in 2018, only 41%. You're kind of not getting the same amount of offense from straight from him, and his assists are going down.
I think that's a big part of Devin Booker
Yeah,
being there, though. I think putting Devin Booker and Chris Paul together gives them a good guard combination or small
yeah,
forward and guard, depending on how you play Booker. But I also think that this will be the like. I think DeAndre Ayton is a huge key to whether or not the Suns are actually a playoff team, not to um, players in Booker and Paul, because if DeAndre Ayton needs to rack up boards consistently, and he needs to play better defense. And I just think you just in any sort of depth in the big man for the Suns will be big. Um,
like speaking of that guard combination, yeah, I could definitely see Devin Booker's numbers going up by adding Chris Paul there. He's another skilled guard. I'd say he's an upgrade from Ricky Rubio, and that would be pretty good for Paul. I mean, for Devin Booker's like assist numbers, for example. If you have a player like Chris Paul who's experienced and he's going to be able to, I mean, and he's a better player like overall than Ricky Rubio, I could see those numbers going up.
Definitely. To move on, I want to get Marcus's thoughts on Drew Holiday to the Bucks, which obviously was another really big move in the Bucks. What seems like the Bucks attempt to keep Giannis in town, because obviously that is a big topic of discussion: is will Giannis stay and sign the supermax, or will he go elsewhere?
Well, I think it was actually a really good pickup. I knew from the I knew from the beginning that the Bucks really needed to do something here if they wanted to convince Giannis for another year. And I think sending George Hill and yeah, sending George Hill over there for wow,
Drew
it's
Holiday.
not getting good. Drew Holiday. I think sending him over there for Drew Holiday, it will be a good addition. And you were also able to keep Chris Middleton,
True.
which is also already a good piece. And if we see improvements from him, and if it overall meshes, they were already in the first seed without him. I think they continue to keep that, and we could see maybe a finals push
Right.
this
And
year.
I think that was big is the we just saw that the Bucks were struggled to push through the playoffs because of the
Yeah.
lack of depth that they had. Um, because when the Lopez brothers are having to carry your offense in any sort of playoff game, you
Yeah.
know you need help. All right.
Yeah.
So nothing against the Lopez brothers, but you know that's not a good sign. So I think he's a good addition. I hopefully you don't see any clashing between him and Bledsoe, um, being that they kind of have similar type games. Um, I think you can play Bledsoe at more of a small forward. I think he's a little bigger than Drew, a little stockier. He can a little stronger, and he could probably play the small forward position. Small forward and shooting guard kind of goes hand in hand. They're both very. A lot of them are very similar in height. And with basketball, just going in the direction of positionless to begin with, I don't think like height and like I think you can just kind of play that game to game. So it'll be very interesting. My last thing on the NBA, obviously being draft night, there's a lot of talk about this draft class, and a lot of people have been saying, in fairness, that this is a weaker draft class overall. There's no standouts. Like last year with Zion, everyone knew Zion was going to go first.
Yeah.
Everyone knew he was going to be good. Like there wasn't much debate. And obviously, in the like Luca was drafted 2 years ago. Trey Young, you got a lot of like young players coming up big, immediately. I don't, and a lot of people are asking, is anybody in this class worth it? Now, I think obviously you got a couple guys. You got the big three at the top of everyone's boards. You got Lamelo, you got Anthony Edwards, and you got Wiseman. Um, it's pretty clear that Wiseman is probably the best big man prospect in this draft. You got some other guys, um, but the big talk obviously is Lamelo a bust, or do you think he's worth any lottery pick? I mean, um, anybody. I mean, any thoughts?
Yeah. Lamelo has definitely had a really weird journey to the NBA. I think that's pretty obvious. I mean, he went from playing Lithuania and then Australia, and now he's one of the best NBA prospects right now. So one of the main things that I think about when thinking about like Lamelo Ball, Lamelo Ball's like his like draft weight. I think about the type of competition that he's been facing. Uh, college basketball is literally like where the majority of NBA players get picked from, and the level of competition it's able to they're able to it's able to
Develop.
translate. Yeah, it's able to develop better. So
Right.
I think that'll be like a huge uh, factor into like playing. I think that's a huge factor into whether he's a lottery pick or not, because you don't know for sure if that if the way that he's been performing is based on if the competition is actually like good enough to translate to the NBA like
Hmm.
seamlessly, or it's just that it's like he's playing against preschoolers while he's in third grade.
Right,
You know
right,
what I
and
mean?
I and
Yeah.
I agree with that a lot in the sense that I think there are definitely some glaring flaws in his game. One of them being his defense. He just seems to
Yeah.
not try on defense, which is not good in the NBA. You will get burned. You will look like Michael Porter Jr. out there. Okay, you don't want that. It's not good because at the end of the day, I don't care how well you can shoot. He can't shoot that well. I mean, if we're being honest, shooting is another flaw in his game. He does not have good technique. He crosses his feet a lot when he shoots, which is not good either because you can trip. That's how you get hurt when you get fouled. He extent like elbows are out. I mean, it's his shooting technique is not good. When he connects, it looks it doesn't make it look better. Like, okay, so he's not shooting like super well percentage wise. He's not putting up any crazy shooting numbers. His main skill, where people like him, is obviously in his playmaking, his
Yeah.
passing. And I think that you really have to, I think a lot of people think he's going to come into the league and light it up offensively, and I don't feel like that's
Yeah.
the case. I feel like he'll come in and he's going to probably take a few years to really work in and see if it's really like if it clicks. And I don't know if it will click. I think it'll be up to him and his effort that he wants to put in and what team he goes to. I mean, if he goes to a team like the Timberwolves, I don't see the Timberwolves developing him correctly. I'm gonna be honest with you. I just don't.
I don't think the Timberwolves do very well
No,
at developing their players. Period.
I don't.
Yeah, I mean, if LaMelo wants to truly succeed at shooting in the NBA, I kind of feel like it's going to be like a Markel Fultz thing, where he's just going to have to completely just
Rebuild his jump shot.
rebuild his jump shot from the ground up. Because the main thing that teams want him for, like you said, is his playmaking, and that's only one of the aspects of the game.
Right.
Yeah, there's so much more that goes into it to be a good player.
Right.
So this is the
sort of-
only this is the only topic I can participate on, or I feel like I should be able to participate on, is LaMelo, because it's LaMelo, and
Go ahead, Tony. Go for it, man.
the Ball family and everything that goes on with them and the drama. But I don't think he should be a number one pick, not even in the slightest. I honestly don't even think he should get drafted in the first round.
Wow.
Which is crazy. Because because he I'm not saying he's a bad player, but I don't think that his transition to the NBA is good enough to validate a number or a round one pick. I'm not saying he shouldn't be a round two, or I'm not saying I wouldn't be surprised if he's a round one, but his transition I don't think is good, because from when he went to high school to Australia, it was not very good. He was struggling, and we all know that. It was a bad transition, and I don't think he should have done it, and I think he should have went to college, which is where, I think we all thought he would have gone, but no, I do only think that his shooting was only good in high school because he could shoot from the volleyball line.
Right.
He could shoot from the volleyball line, and everybody wanted to give him the ball. So he had a lot of attempts. So it also drove his shots made up, and it made him. I think he inflated his stats in high school and made himself look a lot better than he really was. Because you also see in his 99-point game in high school, he was just cherry picking the whole game. So it wasn't like he was actually like tearing up the defense in high school. Like he was just cherry picking, and every time somebody would get the rebound, he'd already be halfway down the court, if not like the free throw line or damn near under the basket. So I honestly don't think he should even be a first round pick. Like also with his like including his brother. Like his brother, I feel like drew a lot more attention than
Lonzo?
Lonzo?
Yeah, Lonzo.
Okay.
I think he drew a lot more attention than really he should have gotten. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm not saying that at all. I think
Definitely took him a while to develop.
I
Yeah,
think
I
you're
think
like, what were you gonna say?
no, I was just saying I think it's going to be a thing with his he follows similarly to his brother, because that entire family has done this exact same thing. Even their middle child, like he didn't even make it to the NBA.
Yeah, LiAngelo.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still pushing to get out of the G League. And I think
Um,
you're very correct when LaMelo screams bust.
Like I think you hit the nail right on the head when you talk about Lonzo. Yeah, he made himself look way better than he actually is. He's nowhere near worth of like a top tier pick like that. He's honestly like he's like a mid range player in the draft with the way that he's been playing, and the way you were talking about LaMelo like cherry picking and stuff. It just screams like this guy doesn't know how high level basketball like the NBA or college basketball truly works. he's gonna have to make that transition. He's gonna have to work hard at it.
The big dogs don't mess
So
around.
so playing kind of devil advocates here. I feel something that you could argue is that he chooses to play to his to the game he tries to play to the game he finds himself in, which is why we see him try to go more pass minded when he went to Australia instead of kind of how he scored in high school, because he saw, hey, that's not going to work here, is working to adapt. That type of adaptability is something that is useful, especially for someone who's going to need to develop, because you still find uses on the team while you are developing. I completely agree that LaMelo is going to be an investment if you do pick him. It's not going to be an immediate returns thing. He's not going to be someone who's going to necessarily even win Rookie of the Year. But I do believe that he does have potential to be kind of like a slow burner. Give him 2-3 years. Got to remember, these kids are young. He is 19 years old.
So is
He
Anthony
has
Edwards.
He is Anthony Edwards and Wiseman. They're all 19 years old.
Yeah.
They have plenty of time ahead of them. Of course, you want to see results fast, but they have plenty of time ahead of them. If you are patient, you can develop these players into future MVPs. Really quickly, I want to take a look at Vegas odds because, people bet on everything. The odds for the number one pick right now is Anthony Edwards, favorite, minus 250. If you don't know how odds work, basically what it means, if you bet 200, for you to get $100 back in winnings, you need to bet $250. LaMelo Ball is the next favorite as a plus 190. What that means, if you bet $100 and you win, you'll get 190 back as winnings. So Anthony Edwards has been growing this lead that he had in the odds throughout the day. LaMelo was actually in the lead yesterday, but but halfway through the day yesterday it changed and he's been growing his lead. So we'll see how it goes tonight.
Yep.
If I-
Go ahead, Ian. We'll wrap it up.
I just want to say, if I was the Timberwolves, I would 100%, 1,000% take Anthony Edwards over LaMelo Ball. Absolutely.
The only thing I was gonna say is go off what Augustino said in the draft stock. So the only thing that sounds like a red flag. Like if your draft stock goes down or it doesn't move very much in overnight and you're going into the draft, like what does that say about his what people are seeing in him?
To be fair, I understand that, but you also need to make that argument for Wiseman, whose odds haven't changed since over a week ago for his odds going first overall. Again, these are Vegas odds, not necessarily draft stock. This is talking about who is most likely to go first overall, not necessarily how good of a player you are or how projectable you are.
We're talking people have too much money to play with.
Yeah.
Yes.